It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have 'em some fun, 'cause I'm a big hunk of crime fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything can happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Hubba, 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 heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
Eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
We are live. We are live. We are live.
And welcome to Thunderous Thursday here in a very, very hot Fresno, California. 108 degrees here. I just got back from Oklahoma City, and it was about 103 there. A little bit more humidity than it is here. But still, 108 is, but it's dry heat. It's like 108, but it's dry heat. There's nothing good about 108. You can't do anything. You can get in a radio station here, which is nice, and a little air conditioning, and get the joy of being on the air with y'all. But you don't want to be out in this stuff, bad stuff, and be especially guys and gals, are kind of my age or maybe even a little bit younger, or definitely if you're older. You got to watch it. You can't do what you normally do
us boomers got to watch it because we want to stay active. I mean, I go to the gym an hour and a half a day. I ride my bike at night, and I kind of look forward to taking on the heat. And one thing I've learned is 100 degrees is my cutoff point. All right? I don't get on that bike. I did one time, and I tell you, I will not do that again. It's about 103. Big difference between 100 and 103, by the way. Take my word for it. And I said, okay, I'm going to get on 103. I'm going to do my normal route and just being the knucklehead that I am in terms I won't quit unless I get what I'm determined to get, the whole route. I'm not going to go halfway like I should have and said, a little too hot, get a little dizzy out here. Didn't really hydrate like I should have. Should have drank that Gatorade, not just half hour ago, but last night. You get your hydration the day before, by the way. Took me a long time to figure that out. But anyway, I was weaving and bobbing. I got through it. But when I got home, I paid an awful price, man. I wasn't right the whole rest of the night. Normally I sit there and watch 90 Day Fiance, and I'm really engrossed in it, man. It was just a blur. I mean, they're all going at each other. And Kim said, hey, it's one of the best episodes. I went, huh? What? So don't do that. Just stay indoors and gear down the pace. Gear down the pace. It's consider each day a marathon, not a sprint. So there's your, as I say, free advice is worth what you pay for it. But I felt that on my heart. Hadn't planned to open the show up with that. But it's my public service announcement. Jeremy, it is my duty when I feel something like that to pass that on, because especially those, as I said, the boomers, you got a lot more to do. We got a world to save out there. These young ones don't know what they're doing. We got an old one in there that doesn't know what he's doing either. Remember who said, remember the president that was never admits when he's wrong, divisive, and always lies? Remember that about 2 years ago when they got him out of office? Does that sound familiar? Now, did we get that guy out of office that never admits when he's wrong? No, there's no inflation. That's not inflation. We know our spending didn't cause that. And by the way, inflation is good for you. Accept it. Divisive, calling everybody names. That's lies. It's just, I guess, what do they call different heads of the same coin or what have you in terms of those things. But anyway, when you criticize somebody on those things, never admitting when you're wrong, being divisive, lying, those are three pretty good things you could point out. If you're in leadership position and you're doing those three things, you need to be called out on that. I'm all for that. But if you're the one calling it out and you say, give me that job because I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'll say if I withdraw out of a country and leave people to die and have 4 of our military people blown to bits when it could have been prevented, I could have prevented, you got to say, my bad. When you say that, you basically piggyback on Hillary Clinton's deplorable description of 81 million American voters who voted for Donald Trump. And then, you've got to do that difficult thing that you promised the people that you would do, is tell the truth. Don't come out and figure out what kind of spin we can put on that, because spinning something and purposely deceiving the people is just, I think it's kind of an Ivy League way of not calling it lies. Well, let's spin this correctly for the greater good of the country. No, you're lying. If you intentionally deceive somebody or lead somebody a different direction, as this administration does pretty much every single day, don't sugarcoat it. Be different than what you criticized the last president for. By the way, that's why a lot of people, and I would go be as bold as to say the vast majority of the people who voted for you voted for you for that reason. You had some Republicans and independents, not just stone cold wokeaholic left people. You had people saying, you know what, this last guy, the orange man, he never admits when he's wrong. I'm tired of that, tired of the tweets. He's divisive. We need to bring this country together. He lies, this and that. Okay, Joe, you're going to be different. Get in there. And then when it doesn't happen, and you, in some estimations that can be backed up empirically, you exceed those things. You continue to never admit when you're wrong. You continue to pick every opportunity you can, or take advantage of every opportunity you can, to divide the country, to attack the former president, and then continue that situation. So, in a way, I guess the moral of the story is, if you're going to criticize someone, whether it's someone's the president of the United States and you're looking to be the president of the United States, I think we just went dark on social media there. But it's true in life, too. No matter, what situation you're in, the Bible says, judge and you shall not be judged. And none of us are perfect. We can call somebody out for lying and then, find ourselves telling a lie and want to refer to it, well, as a little white lie, or I lied for your own good. A lot of ways to justify a lie. But really, is there any right way to do a wrong thing? So I think it's a lesson for all of us as we, in this country as a whole and as individuals during this very difficult time in the history of our country and the world, we do need a little introspection. We need to go inside ourselves and say, what can I do to be better? What can I do to be a better me than I was yesterday? Don't try to get, just overnight totally transform yourself. That'd be nice if we could do that, get rid of all of our flaws and all the negative things we have, things that we don't want about ourselves. But it's a process. And if we did introspectively made that promise to ourselves that, look, I'm going to try to be better at those things that involve character. Because it all starts with that, your character. Do you value your word? Does your word mean something? Do you value honesty, integrity? Do you value a fair shake for everybody, not just a selective few? Those things that form your character, because your character is going to determine your choices that you make in life. That's going to drive your decision making, your choices, your character. Are you an honest person? That's going to drive what choices you make, whether to be truthful when somebody asks you, hey, can you give me your honest opinion about maybe my behavior, that sort of situation. And you got to say, well, if I say this, they may hold it against me and I might not get that promotion. Or is your character such that you're willing to say, hey, I've been asked to tell the truth and I'm going to tell the truth? Does my word mean something? Hey, I'm going to call you. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow night. Well, do you do that? Does that mean something to you? Can you keep your word? If somebody says this is between just you and me, can it be between just you and me? And you say yes. Can you keep it between you and that other person? Or do you say, well, I really got to tell old Bob this, or I got to get on my, he is trustworthy, and the things in life, what job you choose to take, what investment you choose to take is going to be determined by your character. And then your choices create your habits, good habits or bad habits. And your habits, I think, determine how successful you're going to be in life. And yeah, we can talk all day of what's the definition of success. I have my own definition, is being the best person you could be. Economic success, career success, relationship success. I think does it turn out the way you want it to be? And if it's not the way you want it to be, then what can you do to change it to help it turn out, knowing that we don't have control over too much, but we have control on our effort? You might say, well, Alan, gosh, the way you want it. Well, if your character is strong, you won't make it all about just you. You'll think about others in your choices and others with your habits. So, you'll want a relationship, your marriage or your friendship or your relationship at work, to be one that both people or the whole team that's involved in that, your family, is blessed. There's a positive optimism, that you respect one another, that you validate one another's thoughts, even and opinions, even if they don't go according to you. So I think, what does that have to do with the state of affairs in the United States and around the world, you say? In my old convoluted way, in my mind, it has everything to do with what's going on. It's a lack of character, a lack of good choices, and that benefit all instead of a select few. It's a lack of good habits that countries, individuals, and organizations and corporations have. And that's why we're seeing our country not being successful, moving forward. In fact, a lot of people think we're going backwards, and I happen to be one of them. And like I said, I hate saying that because I'm an eternal optimist by nature. I don't know where my optimism came from, but I've always felt if you worked hard and you had some stick-to-itiveness to yourself, and that you really had a chance to reach your goals. I wasn't born into an economically vibrant situation. I wouldn't change a thing about my life because I was raised with a lot of love, and I wouldn't change that. But this drive, and like I said, I had to be eternal optimist. I made a living in Hollywood for over 30 years with this face, so I have to be an eternal optimist. But I'm also a realist, and I see this country, which I love so much, just step by step, self-devouring and self-destructing the institutions and the principles and values that this country was built upon. And progressiveness, when you say conservative and progressiveness always sounds better to those who don't think it through. As Thomas Sowell said, no matter how smart you are, if you don't stop and think. Yes, we have progressed. You see progression in transportation, from horse to the buggy to the car to the plane, and society. You had a very oppressive society. We had slavery in this country. Got rid of that. That's good progressive things because you get rid of the bad things. Society says, you know what, this doesn't fit in. In our society, freedom and justice for all. Everybody should have a fair shake and not be denied that by the color of their skin or ethnicity or their religious beliefs. So you want to purge those things out and sandpaper some of those things off as you go along. And so in that context, all right, progressive, all right. But certain things are timeless. They are rocks of which you build everything else on. And those things, as I said, they come from a higher power, and they should never, ever change, because you start messing with the bedrocks of a civil society, you get in trouble. You say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, in our Constitution, guaranteed justice and freedom for all. You don't want to mess with that. You don't progress out of that or go backwards on that. That is a bedrock ideal that will never go out of style. And if it does go out of style, you're in big trouble as a country, because that's the open door to tyranny and dictatorships. When you let other people decide who gets to have freedom and justice and in what amount. And we're seeing a lot of that going on now. You're seeing political parties decide, not the Constitution, not the rule of law, not due process, but a small group of political folks with an axe to grind and a grudge they've been carrying for 6 years, wanting to exact vengeance on somebody. And it goes both ways. So certain things like being a respectful person, a decent person, that in having, those things should never go out of style. Should never have an era where, you know what, we've got tired of, being nice people. Let's try to be bad people. Let's see how bad we can be to one another, because that's progressive. I got bored with all the nice people around, so let's just start calling each other names, every man and woman for themselves. See how that works. Or you say, freedom and justice and liberty. It's time we be progressive. Jeremy, we got to be progressive on that. Got tired of that freedom and liberty. Let's try a little tyranny and a little dictatorship. I mean, it's like going, I'm tired of feeling, having this pain-free life. Could you please grab that Louisville Slugger and hit me as hard as you can in the shin? So I want to feel like what real pain feels like. No, you don't. You don't change something just for the sake of changing. And you see a lot of that going on. Hey, having a mom and a dad and a nuclear family has worked very well for this country. The most well-adjusted individuals come out of that environment. Yes, you have some people that don't. I get it. And yes, there's been people that overcome odds and come out of a single-parent home and achieve great things and are great people. I get that. But the statistics and the data speaks loudly. You have a better chance when you have a loving mother, a loving father, clearly defined roles, not just, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of having a home where you have a mom and dad. Let's just have a gender neutral home with no leader, no mom, no dad, just a cisgendered whatever, and a mother who's, I don't know. Hey, look to your brother. Brother, what's mom's pronoun today? Hey, don't call her mom. What is it? It's just so confusing and stupid. It's so stupid, and it's almost laughable if it wasn't so destructive, because our countries, our systems and institutions are buying into this. And I see General Milley up there. Do you remember that he was called before Congress, and they asked him, how's the military? It's a pretty violent world out there. China's feeling so. They're building up their military. Looks like they're getting ready to take over Taiwan. You got North Korea. They're loading up. Iran's getting a nuclear bomb. And they all hate us. General Milley, what's your plan to protect America? Well, I really need to understand what white rage is. I'm interested in what white rage is. There you are. White rage. That's what you're spending your time on, to defend America. Well, I got news for you. White rage is what you feel for Trump. That's what you, as a white man, feel for Trump. What you're feeling is that. Now, you understand what white rage is now. And you got a guy over there at Putin who hates America. That's white rage. Okay? And you are supposed to protect us from that white rage over there. But I got news for you, too. There's a lot of Asian rage towards America in China. And that's not condemning a whole race. The Chinese Communist Party, if you want to put it in racial terms, is which he did, which we shouldn't, but he did. That's his thought process as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is what this individual is spending much of his time on. Reading D'Angelo's book, and Key, Mendy, Schmindy. You don't hear much from those people anymore. I think we're starting to turn a little bit in this country. But anyway, it is such a silly, as I said, very stupid thing to call it progressiveness. I mean, the true progressive that started this was a fellow named Teddy Roosevelt. Now, you go look at what he stood for. He was known as one of the fathers of progressivism, if that's a word. And see what he thought about America. The old trust buster himself. But, okay, we hadn't planned on spending that much time on that. But as the old saying go, you know how to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. We're just going to take a quick break, and I'm planning on coming back. I hope God doesn't have a joke on me and we're off the air when we come back. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat on Thunderous Thursday. When we come back, a very rare occurrence has happened. We're going to get to the latest with the judge on releasing these documents, this affidavit on the Mar-a-Lago raid. But something else that doesn't happen, it's almost like Halley's Comet, comes around once in a while, where a federal agency says we were wrong. You heard it right here. And we're going to talk about it when we come right back. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat.
I took us to commercial. Our cart wall froze.
Okay.
The music bumpers.
Okay. When did we go? Did we get that last part in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right when you stopped talking, I cut it.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. You know, I was talking about the weather here at 108, but actually, for here in Fresno, this summer, we have really gotten off light, really. Last year, we had a string of over 100 degrees that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it started early, right around late June. So June was rather mild here in the Central Valley. So, I complained about the 108, because, hey, that's just what I do. But we're actually pretty fortunate. I know some of the rest of the country, y'all out there really experiencing a lot of floods there in the South, and wish all y'all the best and praying for y'all. But we're almost to the fall. And if you're Liz Cheney, bless her heart, she's already reached the fall. She got to the fall ahead of us, didn't she, Jerry? Bless her heart. What? I feel like what Mom would tell me when I would make a bad decision, a real kind of dumb decision in life. And she would look at me and say, well, Carlos Allen, what did you expect? I remember my dad told me I needed to mow the lawn. I didn't mow the lawn. And he was one thing, he didn't work me to death. He didn't work me like Lucas McCain, the rifleman, and his kid. You ever notice that in Rifleman? Well, Lucas McCain worked Mark to the bone, man. Come home and say, hey, Daddy, can I go into town? Well, have you milked every cow west of the Mississippi? Well, no, Paul. Well, get out there and do it. But, I had to work, but it wasn't like I was a slave driver or anything.
1 minute.
And I told him I was going to mow the lawn. He was big on integrity, keeping your word. We talked about it at the top of the show. Well, I didn't do it. And I forgot. And I didn't forget, really. And Mom knew that. I had other things on my mind. He came in and he dressed me down in his way, didn't raise his voice. And, of course, I was trying to find some comfort someplace. I went to Mom and said, Mom, Joe really got on me. Well, son,
30 seconds.
What did you expect? You know better than that. You knew what was going to happen. And I just wonder if anybody's telling Liz Cheney that. For Daddy saying, well, Liz, what did you expect? What do you expect when you asked me to do a commercial and I called the man a coward and he carried the state of Wyoming by 99%? What do you expect?
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome back to Autry's Army. I love y'all. Our little band of warriors continues to grow. Faith, family, freedom. We will never retreat from those values. We will go to our grave and beyond with those 3 basic principles forever encased in our heart and our soul. Impenetrable. You can't even get in there and you can't come out with it. There's no way. We are committed to those 3 principles, and I think that makes God smile. I'm going to go out and say it. I think he approves of that. Yeah, Liz Cheney, she got her Cheney yanked there in that primary. And folks on radio, you didn't hear, I was talking to the social media family here. It had to be expected. But, I've been in 3 lines of work that can be very heady. I mean, things can go to your head because of the nature of the business that you're in. Professional sports. I was a quarterback in National Football League. The NFL stood for not for long. I tell people I had a great career going until they put me in. But even as lousy as I played, I got a taste of what it feels like to, apply your trade, to be out there working, and you throw a football into the end zone and your guy catches it for a touchdown, and hearing 65,000 people go crazy in adulation of what you just did. That is a very addictive feeling. You're thinking, wow, I made 65,000 people here and people all over in their living rooms watching on TV. Woo, I'm important. I'm doing something important. And then my career got cut short because how do I put this? I wasn't very good. Okay, I went a long way on a minimal of ability, but had the blessing to play and get a taste of it. But you see people that are in it a long time, they really get addicted to that. I happen to think that's what's going on with Tom Brady. He doesn't know whether to do or wind his watch unless he's playing football. And that's understandable. You know, he says, I'm going to retire. He gets out. Leg starts tapping. You know, what do I do? And he's back out in the field at 45 years old. And I got a bad feeling about this season for him for some reason. That's another story. But you can see it go to the head. And then I went to the entertainment business. And you see actors that instead of thinking, you know what, I know I'm a star of a major film, or I'm a star of a major TV series, instead of saying, you know, I was just an unemployed actor who got lucky in an audition, you start believing that you're special when you're on the cover of People magazine and you have a premiere and people there, the paparazzi are all around, and you see people change. You can see it go to their head. I can spot it instantly when somebody has let that seep into their being and go onto their head. But I have never been in a business or seen a vocation, if you want to call it that goes to the head of people quicker and more destructive when it gets there inside the soul than politics. I got a little taste of it as mayor. Now, I can honestly say it never went to my head because I'd been through 2 other businesses, you know, that, like I said, you know, where you saw people self-destruct. You saw people just become less of what they could be because they were just drunk with the ego of being a professional athlete or an actor and all that stuff. And I got, you know, God had kind of delivered me from a lot of stuff before I ran for office. Thank God. But I saw people around me that their worst nightmare, you know, being in office, especially in Sacramento and Washington, and I'd make those trips there on behalf of our city, but it's all locally too. Their worst nightmare, the thing that they felt if it happened, they could never bounce back from. It would send them into a spiral of depression that Dr. Phil, at his best day, couldn't bring any light into your life. And that was the thought of losing their office, being voted out of office, losing. It's unbelievable. And you see people thinking that these when they're in office, these grandiose opinions that they have about themselves. Number one, that they've been anointed with an intelligence way beyond the average person, that the people they represent are depending on them to be a lot smarter than them, that the people don't really, that the office holder doesn't really work for the people work for the office holder. That is the rule, not the exception, and particularly in Washington. In California, it's absolutely the rule in Sacramento. And I look at Liz Cheney, and I see an individual who heretofore I had a different opinion. I thought she was more level-headed. I thought she could resist the urges and the temptation to play pure revenge politics, because I'd seen Reagan. I'm going to say I thought she had the potential to go into that rarefied air of a Reagan, a John Kennedy. I did. Okay, I'll admit. I just, for whatever reason, she just had that aura to me that this lady could go far, because she's willing to compromise and she's got tough skin. She understands that it's really hardball politics, and it's your job to play that game of hardball and win it for the people, and to compromise and be able to take understand the fact that you're going to get attacked, you're going to get ridiculed, you're going to have people work behind your back, stab you in the back, literally, and you have to work through that and may have to work with that person on behalf of the people. Work with that person that really voted against you, may have done terrible things, like leak personal information about you or your family, which happened to me here in Fresno. And you find yourself having to work with this person on behalf of the people. Tough to do. I grant you that. But I felt she could do it. But she turned out to be absolutely the opposite of that. Very thin-skinned. Instead of a humble servant, I'm seeing now a almost delusional individual, completely drunk with the addiction to politics. I know those are powerful words, okay? I get that, and there's some folks out there that really respect Liz Cheney, and I still, I have nothing against her personally. My Christian faith says that I should love her, and I do, and I wish her well. But I don't wish her to be in politics anymore, because she's proven she cannot get past the gnawing, persistent presence of revenge. This president, the former president, he went after her daddy, Dick Cheney and George Bush, who I supported both of them. Got to know President Bush pretty well. But Donald Trump came out and just mercilessly criticized both Bush and Cheney. And they have a family dynamic that you attack one, it's a blood sport. It's a no holds barred, we're going to get you back philosophy. And it doesn't matter what's in our way. Oh, the greater good of the country, I don't care. I got my eyesights on you, dude, and I'm going to take you down because you went after my daddy. Personally, you can understand that. It's a natural thing. But you can't have that in politics. It's unfair. Politics, leadership. Let me qualify that. We're talking about true leaders, true public servants. That's why I caution people, don't get into this. It almost requires a supernatural ability like Abraham Lincoln had. Abraham Lincoln had the ability to say, listen, he was criticized more than any president. They would march coffins past his window every day during the Civil War. He had a wife who had very severe emotional and mental issues, lost son. But the preservation of the Union, the country, he was committed to that, and he wasn't going to move off of that. And in fact, when he got elected, he put together what he called a team of rivals. It was people that had actually worked against him. He put them in high positions, and it worked for him. As I said, almost supernatural ability to put self aside and put your commitment to the country and to the people at the forefront. Compare that to Liz Cheney, and I only brought up Lincoln as a reference because she did. In her concession speech, I'm listening to this, and I'm going, my goodness, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse with this individual. She lost by over almost 40 points in Wyoming, okay, where the Cheney name heretofore up to this point was like gold. I mean, if you were a Cheney or your name even sounded like Cheney, you were going to get elected. It was that revered. And in about a year, probably less than 12 months, she was able to completely destroy that name because people saw an individual they thought they knew that was going to keep the people of Wyoming as their number one concern, totally obsessed with exacting revenge on a former president to make sure that president never runs again. Not because she's bad for the country. It's clear. No, that person went after your father, who made hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe. And many people share this with his dealings with Halliburton on war. Made a lot of money on the war in Iraq. That's a little conflict of interest. There's a lot of things, if you want to criticize Dick Cheney about, that you could legitimately. And Trump did in his own way. He come out swinging hard and swinging below the belt and all that stuff. But you got to be able to put that aside. But what does she do? apparently she left a 2-word message on Hagerman, the lady who beat her. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Hello, I forget her first name, but it was just hello. It didn't pick up. So she says, to congratulate the individual who beat her. You, in your concession speech, talks about, hey, this is not the end, it's the beginning. And you evoke the name of Lincoln in the context of, hey, Lincoln lost this election, that election, another election, several more elections, that wound up attaining the highest office in the land. Well, I kind of think we all know where you're heading, where you're trying to go. But you look, his journey and your journey, his qualifications to run for president, your qualifications could not be more opposite, Liz. Take some time off. You're probably a good person that has a chance to purge that hatred, that revenge out of you, so you could be an effective leader if you got back in politics. But we know you're not going to do that, and it's sad. Until this man is dead and buried, and by the way, even dead and buried, you know you're going to oppose his presidential library. Any kind of exaltation or anything that would afford any president, good or bad, my goodness, to even have a Herbert Hoover who's blamed for the Depression. Calvin Coolidge, a racist back in the day, they say. All have a presidential library. But you know you're going to oppose that because he's evil. He's somehow worse. Not because of his policies, because he criticized your father. I'm going to give, as we go to break, the best advice I can give to Liz Cheney, and I hope this gets to her somehow, some way. I believe in miracles. The 3 most powerful words I think any of us can learn to do when something like this is on us, our feeling of revenge and hate and anger. These 3 words are, let it go. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. Now, when we come back, we're going to, I'm going to go over that department that has admitted that they're wrong. You may have seen it already, but I'm sorry, it's out of the I told you so file. Way back in the day when we first started with this show, right in the middle of the pandemic. Oh, I gave you a little clue what department it is. Yeah, probably already. Oh, James Longview. Oh, we'll let you James, you're on the line here. We'll get you as soon as we come back. That'll give me, we got time. I wish I could tell you more about the guest spot I did on Sylvester Stallone's new series, what is it? The Tulsa King. Flew to Oklahoma City twice, got the scene done. I wasn't really that happy with it. We'll see how it goes. It may lead to a recurring role or maybe one and out. I don't know. So I'm not building it up any bigger than it is. But anyway, I can't talk too much more about that in detail because I signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, as they said. So, but that should be lifted when they start airing it November 1st. And I'll be able, probably before then, I'll be able, just share a few more things about it. A lot of amazing things happen that had nothing to do with the set of people that God brought across my path that I was able to, interact with and bless them and they blessing me. It's pretty amazing. I was just there for a few days each time and he just provided opportunity after opportunity, to witness and to help people. And I call those ministries of the moment. And you got to take those blinders off. You can't be like the racehorse where you put the blinders. I did for many years. Believing in God, wanting to help, work for God, serve God. But sometimes you can get so on the big picture of serving Him that you forget that He's going to bring you opportunities every day to do His work, which is what? Love Him with all your heart and love others as yourself. And it might be, going through the line at the grocery store and just noticing that the cashier may be having a bad day, and just saying, "Hey, I appreciate what you do. I know it's a Sunday day off. People have a
1
day
minute.
off. What that means to that person, I've done that, and without exception, you can see it brighten their day. Well, you've done God's work, and I would have missed that many times in my life. I had the blindness on, didn't even see that. So I didn't have the blinders on in Oklahoma City. I'm trying to say. Live long enough, you get wise up a little bit. How much time we got?
30 seconds.
Yeah, just laughing because the 70s, I would say a very memorable time, except I was engaging in things with I tried to drink Budweisers faster than the company could bottle them, and they won. So my memories of that era are a little sketchy, but I got a chance to do the 70s different. My 70s different. Boy, I love these songs. Certain songs just bridge the generation. Both Jeremy, who's 26 years, 26? 27 years old, same thing. Here I am, 7 years old. And we're both head bobbing to CCR. That's a multi-generational head bob there. Excuse me. Dadgummit. I should push that cough button, which works for radio. I'm back. Social media, you heard that, but radio didn't. James, Longview, Texas. You got a comment about the old blood sport we call politics?
Yeah, Alan, I just wanted to get your thoughts on blood sport. You mentioned Abraham Lincoln, but I just wanted to bring one other example you'd be well aware of, Harry Truman. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I tell you, Harry was one who was committed. And you know, Harry Truman went out of office probably one of the poorest presidents. You know that, James? You probably know that. He didn't, you say, well, Harry Truman couldn't be bought. Excuse me, folks. Sorry. Well, he couldn't. He didn't. And proof is he left office and he could barely afford a little house, but he was happy. He was a man of integrity. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, there's an example of someone who, unshakable principles to do what's best for the country, took over in very difficult times when one of the most beloved presidents, I think, in our history, Franklin Roosevelt, who led us through, and his whole story is an interesting one as well. There's no perfect people, folks, especially in politics. So don't kid yourself. It just doesn't exist, or in life, period, but particularly in politics. But Harry Truman is a good one there. And I tell you, James, you sound strong. It's great having you back as a loyal listener, man. I love you. Appreciate you calling in.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and that's a great, and if you come up with another one, because we need sometimes our template for the future, our guidepost for the future. That old saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Okay? We look in our past and we see things that happen, and it's just the way that God set it up. It does rhyme. Things come up, and we can learn tremendous lessons from the past. And what's that old thing about insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. And you see a country, individuals do that, but countries do it as well. You see repeating, a particular policy or an attitude or a decision, and you look back in history going, you know what? That was tried back in the 1800s, again in the early 1900s, again in the mid-1900s, and it always failed. We might not want to go down that path, again. But you have this far-left, wokeaholic, Marxist ideology, which depends on destroying the past so they can start fresh with tyranny and oppression and identity politics as the historical bedrock of their principles. And the problem is that's all shifting sand. Unless you have liberty and justice given by God, it's on straw. It's on, as I said, shifting sand. You're just destined for failure as a country. Every country that's tried this kind of thing, this Marxism, this destroying the family unit and all that stuff, the Nazis tried it, and it eventually, it turns to dust. But appreciate you, Jim. Thanks for that. Hey, let's go to this government department. To say for an individual politician at any level to say, I was wrong, it's very, very rare. I mean, I read in the paper, James, where this guy was at a restaurant and found a very rare blue pearl in one of his clams. And it's very, very rare. Well, having a politician say I was wrong is even more rare than that. I can't remember the time. Now, I mean a real mea culpa. Hey, I was wrong. Not a, okay, I'm sorry that it turned out that way. I'm sorry I did that, but, or I take full responsibility for it. It's not, that's not saying you're just saying you're wrong. You said you just take full responsibility. It's like they can't say it. I was, there's something about a hardcore politician, which 90% of them are. They just can't do it. And the same is agencies. But the CDC came out, led by Rochelle Walensky, who's now the head of the CDC, came out 2 days ago and said, you know what? We weren't very good. We made some really bad mistakes, and we're going to do some major overhauling of the CDC. Wow. And then the director, not the executive director, but assistant director, I forget his name, came out and got a little bit more specific. Because you're waiting for the specifics. Oh, what was wrong? Well, what were you wrong about? 6 foot social distancing. You know where they got that? They made it up. Remember an old Okie looking in the camera like I am right now? Back when I first started this show, saying they're just making that up. There's no scientific basis for saying 6 feet social distance. Okay, also the 15 minutes that you're more apt to get it if you if you're talking to someone 15 minutes, you're likely to get that COVID. You know where they got that scientific fact? They made it up. They, meaning the CDC, they didn't even follow the science, because what the real science was saying, the real science, we don't know what's going on. We don't know about this COVID. It's not acting like any coronavirus we've ever seen. We haven't the slightest idea about this thing. We don't know the long-term consequences of this. And then you remember the CDC? Walensky was part of it. I know she feels bad about this. Fauci, I doubt he feels bad. He's a great spinner of, probably the best spinner I've ever seen, but he's spinning himself into a box too. She said that the vaccines, they said if you take the vaccines, you will not get COVID, and you can't transmit COVID. Well, none other than Jill Biden, who's been vaccinated twice with 2 boosters, guess what? She's got COVID. And I wonder who she caught it from. Probably from a guy. Let me lean forward on this. Probably from a guy who's holding the presidential office, 79 years old. Probably where she got it. Okay, do I know that for sure? No, but come on. A guy who was double vaccinated and double boosted. Sure you can, but they were telling us, follow the science. And man, if you didn't follow that, if you even question it, well, here comes Twitter to knock your sorry butt off. Here comes Instagram and Facebook, man. You're a denier. You're trying to kill grandma. You're going to be ostracized. You're going to be called every name in the book. You're going to lose your job. You are a pariah. You've got the scarlet leather D, denier, on your forehead. And we find out now, and props to them. So you're asking yourself, as I am, why? Okay, we only got a minute 43. We're going to pick this up again tomorrow. But there's a thing in politics called getting out in front of a story. So a politician knows somebody's got some pictures, compromising pictures of him or her, doing something they shouldn't be doing. They get a heads up. Well, they get out in front of it by having a press conference. The theory meaning if you get out in front of it, you admit it, then you have a chance of making it through that controversy and continue to hold your office or seek the office. Okay? My belief is, pardon me if I'm a little cynical, that, yeah, she's probably got a conscience, Rochelle Walensky. She's part of this big cover-up, this big bogus CDC mandates that imprisoned our kids in class, kept them out of school, all these mental health issues that they were majorly responsible for. But I think she's looking forward to the midterms, because if the Republicans win the House, one of the first things they're going to do is do a full review of the CDC. They're going to dig down in papers. I'm thinking she's saying, you know what? When they come a-calling, we can't defend the indefensible. We've got too many emails we're going to have to turn over that won't be redacted. They're going to know, and we're going to be in a heap of trouble. So we might as well get out in front of it. That's what I think what's happening here. Oh, what an hour. Love y'all, James. Thanks for the phone call. God bless y'all. Appreciate you so much. I love you so much. Just remember, I know I say it all the time, but man, just remember this. Just do your best and let God do the rest. We don't have control on a lot of things in life. We do have control on how we respond to something. Do your best. God do the rest. We'll see you tomorrow on Free for All Friday. Bye-bye now.